looking for in here, that's when you would use that other executable file that I mentioned earlier. So for this one, we are looking for, let me see, where did it go? Microsoft Access. There we go. Driver MDB ACCDB. Now, if you use Access, you may know that MDB is the older file format. ACCDB is the newer file format as of 2007 is when we started with that. That's a winner. We want that. We're going to hit finish. And we're going to give it a name. I'm going to say my underscore tests underscore access underscore DB. And the description, I'm going to say reference page 65. Now, in terms of the data source name, that's a little bit of an odd name there. I'm trying to stay pretty close to your book just so this looks familiar to you if you do it in the future, but you can name it whatever you want there. In terms of the file, though, we want to say, hey, which database? So we're going to select, there it is right here, select, and we're going to have to navigate just a bit. You will see here where it says C, disk C. You might have to double click on that. There is a folder called data. Again, we'll double click on that. And there is Qliksense intro. Double click on that. And come on, chapter 3. Double click on chapter 3. And finally, yes, there is AdventureWorks. I'm going to just click on AdventureWorks and hit OK. And OK. And OK. All right. And then having done that, to be clear, every time that we want to connect to that database, we don't have to go through that part. Having created that connection once, we're good to go. Now we can run over there on the other side into Qliksense, so to speak, and then reference what we just created. Let me show you what I mean. Let's go back into Qliksense here. We're going to create a new app. Here's the button. Create new app. And we're going to call this one AdventureWorks. AdventureWorks. And create. We're going to open app. All right. And this time we're going to go right on into the script editor, right? DLE. That's what I was saying about them being inconsistent here, right? Sometimes they say script editor, sometimes they say data load editor. And you can see it bubbling away there. All right, so a little bit different than what we've done. I promised we'd do a different method, and pretty much here we are. If you look off to the right, you will see create new connection. Go ahead and click on that. All right, and different types of connectors, some of which we pointed to earlier, but now we're not messing around. We're going right here to ODBC. And just to back up what I was telling you before, I showed you all those different tabs, including user DSN and system DSN, and I also mentioned 32-bit versus 64-bit. So yeah, that actually does matter. The default is system DSN 64-bit, and yeah, there is our connection right there. All right, I'm going to select that, and we don't need any password information, but we could, bake that right into the connection string if we need to, but don't need to for this one. So we're going to hit. Let me just double check. Yeah, make sure you click right on it. Okay, and we're going to say create. Right? And that's great. What just happened there, right? Well, basically, if you look off towards the right side of your screen, right, you can see it says My Test Access DB ODBC. Okay, great. So, yeah, what is that? Well, basically, we're looking at this button, Insert Connection String. Go ahead and click on that. And notice that it dumped this line in here. right? Now, that's going to give us a connection to that database. However, we don't really need to put that in there by itself. We can actually use that as part of the connection to, say, a particular table. Let me show you what I mean. If I go back up top here, or off to the right more so, and you'll see that there's a button right here that says select data. Now, when we hit this button, that just kind of willy-nilly puts that string in there. Now, we're being a little bit more focused. When we say select data, it uses that connection string, kind of cracks it open, so to speak, and now we can go shopping. Here we go, off to the left. Now, by the way, this doesn't look familiar. I don't remember seeing these, right? These are tables in the Access database. However, they are system tables. You'll see it says MS, right? So, or MSys, which means that they are system tables, right? So we didn't see those before, but they're still in there, right? And then if you scroll down a bit, then you're going to start to get into the other tables that we did see. Now, a couple things about this. This is a little bit annoying, but there's no way to get on that divider and drag that over. Remember I mentioned the responsive design bit? So this is automatically going to look like this. Sorry, we can't change it. But if you hover over any of these, you'll see that it gives you a little screen tip. And that's useful. Imagine if you had a phone or something, right? So that's the one we want, that second human resources, say employee. And when I put a check mark next to that, that kind of puts it on our plate there, so to speak. Picture a cafeteria tray, and we're saying, yeah, well, I'll take one of these, right? You can see the different fields. We can say yay or nay to the individual fields. And it's also showing you an example of the script that it's going to generate down here as well. And so you can roll up and down to see that. But we're good. We're going to take that. I'm going to say insert script. And when we do, you'll see it drops it on in there. Now, one thing that I would point out is, remember I said that is going to give us an extra one of these connections. Okay, so we don't really need two. I'll get rid of the first one here. It's kind of a 2-for-1 deal there. Okay, and what is all this other stuff here? Like, you know, that seemed like it brought in a lot of things. Well, a couple things. You can see that it says REM, which, by the way, I'm going to talk about that in more detail in just a moment. That is a comment. If you go down a little bit, you'll see SQL select. Ooh. Now, some of you might be in familiar territory with that. If you're not, no big deal. We'll talk our way through there. Right? And then from, and if you notice, it's giving the, you know, drive, folder, subfolder, subfolder, file name, extension, and then finally it gives us the table. So it goes from the general to the more specific is the way to look at that. Okay, so let's tear this apart a little bit. Let's get started with that REM part. What does that mean, REM?